Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Frere, your professor. Our topic this afternoon is on the Industrial Revolution. I would like to ask you, what was revolutionary about the Industrial Revolution? It's because it changed the way people work. So what is this Industrial Revolution? It is the era when power-driven machinery was developed. So what power-driven machines do you use in your everyday life so far? Now, what causes the Industrial Revolution? There are three major causes of Industrial Revolution. We have the Agrarian Revolution, the population explosion, and the revolution in energy. So what is this Agrarian Revolution? That is when farmers improved livestock breeding and created better varieties of their crops. And that was also the time when Jethro Tull invented the seed drill. Because of this invention, it made planting grain more efficient. Then another improvement is the enclosure movement. This is when wealthy farmers bought up land and combined small fields to create larger fenced-in fields. It allowed for more efficient farming methods, but the setback is that it kicked poor farmers off their land. They also introduced crop rotation. This is when rotated crops to prevent a field from losing all of its important minerals. So in our locality, you can also observe this practice of crop rotation among our local farmers. And this enclosure movement was also being introduced to us during the time when we have our colonizers. Then another cause is the population growth. So since the people have now more food due to the improvement in agriculture or due to agricultural revolution, so with greater food supply that lead to population boom. And another thing is poor farmers move into cities, and that brought about to large number of people living in cities, leaving behind their farms in the countryside. Then the third cause is the energy revolution. From the beginning of history, we have known that physical labor of humans and animals provided energy for work. However, these are all changed when people began to harness the use of power of water and coal. Such as in 1769, James Watt developed the steam engine powered by coal. So this invention would run the machines. It ran the machines during the Industrial Revolution. You can see on the slide a picture of the invention of James Watt. It is called the first steam engine designed during the Industrial Revolution. Next is why Industrial Revolution has to emerge or start in Great Britain. What do Britain has for it to be the starting point of the Industrial Revolution? So Britain leads the way in industrializing the world. Industrialization began in Britain, and by the 1800s, It spread out to the United States, to Japan, to Germany, and other countries of the world. So this industrial revolution spreading around the world was powered through by first exploration and colonization. It's because colonies around the world provided raw materials, and at the same time they become the new markets for finished products or goods of the colonizers. Then another is because of geography. By looking into the map, you can see that Britain is an island and has many natural harbors and rivers that could be used for trade, for transportation, and power source for factories. Added to that is that Britain has an abundance of coal and iron, which are very useful during the Industrial Revolution. And of course, political stability in Great Britain. It has a strong, stable government that are being supported by businessmen. So the powerful British Navy also protected overseas trade at the same time. And in addition, the growth of private investment. So this is because of a huge overseas empire of Great Britain, which supported its very strong economy by having wealthy middle-class Englishmen who invested their money in mines, in railroads, in inventions, and factories. So all of this contributed to Great Britain or Britain leading the way for industrialization during the 17th to the 18th century. And of course, Great Britain has all the three factors of productions, the very basic factors in producing products such as land, which is very rich in natural resources such as coal, rivers, harbors, and the like. And of course, labor with a growing population that are made to willing workforce and capital or the funds for investment from its wealthy people or citizens. Now let's have the advances of industrial revolution. These are being brought about by the use of machines. Of course, one is textiles. So before the Industrial Revolution, spinners and weavers made clothing at home using their hand. Cotton was spun into thread and then woven into cloth. And there are also those, particularly artisans, who later have dyed these clothes. And this is known in history as the cottage industry or the domestic system, which is of course very slow. However, during the Industrial Revolution, new inventions were being introduced. So the old ways of making clothes were completely transformed with industrialization, such as the invention of the flying shuttle by John Kay, the spinning jenny by James Hargreaves, the water frame by Richard Arkwright, and the spinning mule by Samuel Crompton. So the flying shuttle by John Kay is also hand operated. However, it wove cloth more quickly than bare hands. While the spinning jenny by James Hargreaves made the spinning of thread faster. Now with one person, it could spin 16 threads at once, unlike by bare hands that you can only, one person can only spin one thread at a time. And added to this is the water frame by Richard Wright. Now, where the spinner is being powered through water, making spinning more faster than using bare hands. And finally, the spinning mule by Samuel Crompton, which is of course the fastest of all those inventions and produced the best thread used in textiles. So because of the invention of the spinning mule that needs more water power for it to function, so producers have to set up factories with water wells along the streams. So factories are where workers and machines are brought together to produce large quantities of goods. So the concept of factories was introduced during the Industrial Revolution, and the same factories are what we are using today. Then another is the mass production of goods. No? So this is a system of manufacturing large numbers of identical items. So since they are now using machines, they can now produce goods in large quantities. So this mass production made possible by interchangeable parts in the assembly line. So when we say interchangeable parts, these are identical or machine-made parts in assembly line, or the production moves from worker to worker, items made more quickly. So the production now is, instead of individual production, the production of goods now is by mass production. And another is of course transportation. In the early 1800s, George Stephenson developed steam-powered locomotives to pull carts along rails. Railroads increased trade and industry. This very common and connected Britain from one end to another. So with the presence of transportation, the number of railroads has to be opened to give trade and industry passes from one country to another, or to connect Great Britain to the rest of, or to its neighboring countries. And in 1807, Robert Fulton, who's an American, also used James Watt's steam engine to power a boat up the Hudson River. So those are the advances of the Industrial Revolution that we are enjoying in our present day. So for the next video, we will be presenting the effects of Industrial Revolution.